right now, it sounds like I'm taking a very hardcore stance against violence in the media. I'm not. I say take that MC-17 rating off. Take it off. I think a baby should be able to buy it. I think the baby should reach out, and if the baby has money and it can pull its mouth off its mama's nipple for long enough, let the baby buy Grand Theft Auto.
On the front lines of the war against sex, because we're the only ones who think of the children. This is the New World Order broadcast, coming to you live from the end of the world.
That's correct. Children should absolutely be protected from sex.
With violence.
With violence, if necessary. It's extremely important that we as a society, and especially as the New World Order, do protect... How were children made again? I never was one.
I believe they're born fully formed from the mufflers of their father's vintage Cadillacs.
Okay. That's what I kind of thought. Or I thought maybe they were fired out of some sort of cannon.
Maybe there's some kind of Panzer tank that just launches them into homes. Yeah.
Right. So, yes, we need to protect children from sex with violence, if necessary. And we, here at the New World Order, broadcasting to you live from the end of the world, we are going to help our civilization overcome this dilemma. And
yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest. The best thing you can do for a child is own an AR-15.
You gotta defend the child.
Yeah, that's how you protect children. If you are sitting there and you are physically trying to relate to your child, if you're trying to do anything to protect, help, nourish, now you just need to be standing behind them with a gun so that they can watch you kill the people that want to hurt them.
Also, you're more persuasive with a gun.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, obviously, who isn't a good public speaker when they're holding a gun?
It has been said, well, I think you're more persuasive to anybody, like, yeah, I'm gonna have to.
People gotta listen.
It has been said that the only reason that men are polite in their interactions is because there is a constant threat, an underlying threat of violence. You know, hey, man, you cross that line, you don't know what's gonna happen. And that's really kind of what disrespect is.
You dissing me, bro?
In male communications, wait a second, are you saying I don't have the will or capacity to do you harm? What makes you feel like you can treat me like this? That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I hear you. There is...
You know, it's a very primate thing that we call, you dissing me, bro?
You dissing me, bro? But, yeah, actually, it's funny. I'm obviously big into video games and everything, and one of the people who I listen to a lot is the lovely Yahtzee Croshaw.
Yeah, he's great.
And what game was it that he was playing? I think it was called... It was either Rust or DayZ, but it was a massively multiplayer zombie survival game where you can sit there and, you know, murder each other and stuff, but you've got to, like, you start off with, like, nothing but a rock in your hand, basically, and you've got to, like, build your way up like a crafting tree to sit there and build yourself better weapons and crap like that.
Sure.
And it was really funny. He brings up this point in the video where he's like, you'd be surprised how friendly people are once you have a gun. He's like, initially, when I sat there and showed up, he's like, I sat there and had a rock and I was bashing it into trees and, you know, sitting there trying to gather wood, and then night fell and I didn't know what to do in the game because I can't see anything at night and there's, like, just terrors all around. So I'm sitting by a campfire and a guy shows up with a gun and yells at me to put down the rock that I'm holding. He's like, but I didn't know how to drop items yet, so I was trying to look up the key bindings for it, and he shot me in the head. And he's like, and he goes, but eventually later on in the game, once I had a gun, people would come up to me and be like, are you friendly? And I would be like, it depends. Is that a gun? And they would say, yes, it is a gun. And I'd say, well, then yes, I'm friendly.
Exactly. Well, I think I said this in another podcast. I said, I feel like carrying a gun in public makes me a better person. And you're like, really? And I was like, well, yeah, because I don't feel necessarily threatened by anybody. So I can just be myself and relax, and, you know, I don't have to be so on edge. And
see, I think,
you know what I mean?
I think that the bad side of that coin is the people who carry it around because they want to feel empowered to be threatened. And those are the people who
the people
who want they want that interaction.
Like one person we know that wishes they were Batman, and they're just waiting for something to happen because they want to try out their new kickboxing skills or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Just one of those things where it's like people who carry a gun because they're itching to have their Charles Bronson death wish moment. You know, oh, give me an excuse, motherfucker. You know?
Yeah, I think that if you're walking around society and you are fantasizing about getting into fights with people, maybe don't carry a gun.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think the gun causes that issue. I think it's the person that's that issue, but
it's absolutely
the gun is definitely exacerbating it in that situation.
The gun gives that type of asshole who's fantasizing about conflict far too much leverage in the situation he is subconsciously attempting to bring about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's no good. Agreed. But I saw so the idea for this podcast came up because I saw something very interesting. I really don't know what's going on, and this is going to come out weeks after this was a trending issue on Twitter, because this was a trending issue on Twitter Friday. Today's Sunday, and this is going to be released 4 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So, hey, shit sucks. What are you going to do? But yeah, Russell Brand just got in trouble.
For what?
I'm not quite sure. Let's bring up that first clip, the first short.
Okay, so the first one. You want the one that's on
not
Twitter?
The one that I just had you
I got you.
tab.
Okay.
The very first one.
All right. Can do, Capitan.
So yeah, I don't know what happened, but let's play this real quick. So, and then I want to look up what happened. We'll explore together.
It's a learning train.
Yay!
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff, like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And
I would say so.
Transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before.
He's doing a lot of framing without saying what it is. I hate when people do that.
No, everybody knows, so let's just go look it up.
From media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth. Russell,
I was thinking the same thing.
I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles, Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist, Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel
which that's smart. Any lawyer will give you legal advice not to talk about a criminal case.
That does make sense.
Going to look into
That's
this
a good
matter
point.
because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close.
So that's why he's skirting around the issue.
Yeah.
Please stay free.
So that seems less evasive to me than if there's actual criminal allegations.
Yeah.
Then that makes a lot more sense to me for him to not directly say it is what he's going on about. So do you know what he's accused of?
No,
I mean, it sounds like it's
man.
something sexual.
Well, yeah, let's do a Google search. I'm assuming that it's, rape of some kind.
It sounds like, because he kept using the word consensual.
It sounds like maybe he's getting Me Too'd. And I hate to use that disparagingly, but it really did seem like it was getting out of hand before the pandemic kicked it directly in the ass.
So, 4 women told the Sunday Times and Channel 4's dispatches that Brand assaulted them between 2006 and 2013. The Sunday Times and Channel 4's dispatches published their joint investigation on Saturday, accusing Russell Brand of rape, sexual assault, and abuse.
There you go.
So, there you go. Now, as far as, and so I feel like, you know, again, I have no idea the validity of the allegations or his defense against them. So,
if I was a betting man,
I
I mean, if you were a betting man, where would you put your money?
I think it's really easy.
Are you familiar with his work and what he does now specifically?
Yeah, no, you showed me quite a few.
And you're a big fan of the movie
Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Get Him to the Greek. No,
Get Him to the Greek.
Yeah,
That's great.
And I like Russell Brand's stand-up and everything too.
But are you familiar with his channel now?
Yeah,
where he does like the 15-minute news segments and everything?
Yeah,
I've sent you a few though.
Yeah, I'm aware with what he does now, and I do. The funny thing is, I will say that I do kind of agree with the mainstream media that he's getting a little out there. But I mean, everybody's entitled to view the world the way they want to, and it does seem like for the most part he seems to try to keep it as a positive thing. You know, I mean, if you want to call anybody a conspiracy theorist or whatever, it's like, hey, I mean, everything's a conspiracy theory until it's an actual conspiracy.
So you know, my point is, you know, to me, and hey, I don't know the guy personally. We've only had sex a few times, but if I was a betting man, I would. Man, that did not land well. Okay, I was expecting you to chuckle.
I was just deadpanning with you.
Okay, you're like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
Your ass was sore as hell.
You
know, if I was a betting man, he doesn't give me like rapey vibes.
I do know that in his past,
he's a peacock. He looks like he tries to, like, especially when he was in the movies and shit, and he had that wild hair and everything. Looks like he's trying to attract women. He's interested in women, and he's very interested in women being interested in him. But he never gave me, like, particularly rapey vibes.
I mean, I guess... So my entire thing with that is that I do know, I believe he's admitted it, right? That he had a drug problem and everything like that.
Oh, sure.
So I mean,
he still refers to himself as an addict, which is not something I would ever do, but it works for him. He's that works for him.
Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those situations where, I mean, cocaine's a hell of a drug, quote unquote. You know, it's like
maybe he was on drugs. Well, I mean, yeah, that's a possibility, but I think that the way, at least that he creates the narrative of his life, is once he got over his drug addiction, which he's still addicted to, it's total abstinence.
Yeah.
That addictive personality latched onto other things, and one of them was sex. So that was like his promiscuity phase was like after his drug use phase, according to him.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, it looks like the allegations, according to what we just read, were between 2006 and 2013, so it's definitely a little dated.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you know, you figure we're talking about that's 10 fucking years ago at the most recent.
I'm pretty sure, according to him, he was clean at that point. But I hear what you're saying. If he wasn't, hey, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
I've done things I'm not proud of while I'm drunk. You know, what it is.
We'll see how that all plays out in the courts. But I mean, yeah, that's, you know.
This is not, you know, I don't want to dwell on Russell Brand. I do have an overarching point, but my point was, if you, knowing what you know about him, and you're not as familiar with his work as I am, but I'm just asking you, I'm curious, if you were a betting man and you had to say, yeah, he probably did it, you're going to have to put $100 down that he is guilty or he is innocent of those things. Where would you put your $100?
With that timeline, I don't know.
Really?
So if with that situation, I feel like if that time period of 2006 to 2013 is when he was heavy into drug use, I've seen people do terrible things on drugs, even though they're nice people.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I've known heroin addicts, I've known cocaine addicts and stuff like that, and they will pull a knife on a motherfucker, like, even though they, you know, give you a hug, you know.
Well, I think it's like Hunter S. Thompson said, at least in the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, you can trust a person, but you can't trust a drug.
Yeah.
And if somebody's using...
you could turn your back on a person, but never turn your back on a drug, especially when it's waving a razor-sharp hunting knife at you.
There you go. So, I mean, he knew that his friend was so high. He's not dealing with a person anymore. He's dealing with a substance that is embodied. It's almost like being taken over by a spirit or a demon,
Yeah, and I think that the shit thing about situations like that with drug and alcohol abuse, when it compounds itself into situations
actual possession and takeover.
Well, where people, because they are on drugs, start hurting other people while they're hurting themselves at the same time. Because It's like, even if something like that did happen, let's just say it did, like for sake of argument.
And full disclosure, I've been in that situation, and you had to put me down. That took me 3 months to heal from it.
I apologize.
That's okay. You had to do what you had to do. I was out of control.
but it's one of those situations where it really sucks, because obviously, if he did indeed do those things, regardless of the state of mind he was in, it's like, well, yeah, you've hurt somebody. You have to give some kind of damages to that person.
Sure.
Even though you may not have been well yourself while you're doing it.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm not. No, the whole point of me bringing up the Hunter S. Thompson quote was not to relieve the individual who does the terrible thing of responsibility.
Oh, I know.
It was to say, oh, well, that would be totally believable. Even the nicest person like me,
he's such an angel,
is capable of absolutely terrible things. We all are. It lurks inside.
Great and terrible things.
Great and terrible things. It lurks inside of all of us. And under the correct circumstances, what be they chemical or situational, we're all capable of absolutely terrible things. So I'm not saying it's beyond the realm of possibility, but if I were a betting man, being familiar with at least his work and the dates in question, I would go ahead and put my $100 on and knowing why certain people would benefit from creating this narrative, which is what he's saying. I would put my $100 on. Nah, that probably it's conflict. It's exaggerated. It didn't happen. There's something wonky going on.
Yeah, I almost wonder, like, when celebrities end up in those situations where they've got allegations on them from years ago and stuff. I almost feel like, are you familiar with the concept of the Streisand effect?
Yeah.
So I almost feel like,
explain it.
Sometimes
explain it to me, just in case,
Yeah. So the Streisand effect is what was it? There was some rumor.
Her house.
What was it about her house again?
So she was really upset that somebody took pictures of her house and posted them online, but nobody was looking at it. As soon as she made a public statement,
she started
about how shitty that was. Everybody started paying attention to it. She started trending, and now the whole world knows where she lives. When it was just like one person who posted, and almost nobody was paying attention to her house.
Yeah, and I thought
that's the Streisand effect.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it.
I'm pretty sure I'm right about that.
Oh, regardless of what the situation is, it was something to that effect, where there was some kind of news story about her that was essentially like a non-story.
Right.
And her anger about the story being out there made the story the story.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. And so
basically she was a little pissed off that she got doxxed, and her being pissed off about it called all of the attention to it. Before that, nobody gave a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because and so I almost wonder with situations like this if maybe his best bet would be to just, not address it and sit there and be like, hey, all I can say is that I'm innocent. I'm not going to talk about it. We'll let the courts decide. Instead of going into there's a massive conspiracy against me.
That's not what he said.
I'm being hyperbolic.
Okay. And I don't know what those 2 letters that he received specifically stated, but if it says in those letters that he shouldn't have the right to question legacy media narratives on his own platform, that's certainly something. If it's in the same letter accusing him of rape, holy shit, you gotta bring that up.
But that's what...
You gotta bring that
up. I feel like if
that's
that's explicitly something that was said, he would literally fucking read that from the letter verbatim.
I don't think it's legally advisable to read the letters
unless under advice of counsel.
Yeah, but I'm sure, if we looked at them, maybe we could find them. But I don't want to go that deep into it. This was how I wanted to start off an overarching thing that I wanted to talk about. So here's another article that I thought was extremely interesting. You can put that up on the screen, and we can read this.
Which one is that?
The one that you have up.
Oh, the one that I have up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is recent news as well. So the Democratic candidate from Virginia, I forget if it's for the state house or whatever, who live streamed sex videos with her husband. So it's not like she was prostituting herself or something or whatever.
It apparently turns her and or her husband on to be watched by strangers.
But it has become this pivotal news story now.
She's kind of cute.
Yeah, no, I mean she's an attractive woman.
She's not my type. She has the type of face that you could cut a roast on, but she's definitely a good-looking woman, relatively speaking.
But yeah, so Democratic Virginia legislative candidate whose race was rattled by the revelation that she and her husband live-streamed themselves having sex moved forward with her campaign Tuesday and drew some early support in the high-stakes contest. Susanna Gibson, a nurse practitioner with 2 children, is running against a Republican businessman in one of a handful of highly competitive races that could determine the balance of power in the General Assembly. The race is a suburban district outside of Richmond, has attracted large amounts of spending and interest for an off-year legislative race. Gibson has been gaining support as an abortion rights candidate in a state that is increasingly rare abortion access point in the South, where many states have passed new restrictions following the U.S. Supreme Court's 2022 decision overturning Roe v. Wade. But
the headline is, we didn't even read the headline.
Yeah, Virginia candidate who live streamed sex videos draws support from women and a leading Democrat.
So if I was to speculate or put my money down on what my opinion is of the Russell Brand decision and then juxtapose that to this article, what it looks like is having your public persona discredited and their vested interests that are against you are using sex as a weapon. It's very strange to me that we live in a society that has puritanical ideals still so hard baked into its cultural fabric that you can weaponize somebody's sexuality against them, even in an age where all of these different gender-affirming pronouns and lifestyles are being actively postulated as something that needs to be accepted. How are we still looking at sex as something that's dirty and evil?
It's actually still in our legislative process. So again, that legal podcast that I sit there and listen to, in defamation lawsuits in New York, there are certain things that if you say them about someone, they are defamation per se.
Okay.
Meaning, they're just definitely defamation. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yes. Yeah. And one of those
I think that's great to take all of the judiciary power away from the judges and the jury. That's great that we keep doing that.
Oh, but it's a very old... This isn't new. The
point
is it's an old law, was my point.
Oh, okay. Go, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Go ahead.
So in New York State, it is still on the books that to accuse someone publicly of being unchaste is defamation per se.
Is defamation a character?
It's defamation per se.
And it's not... You can't defend yourself against it. If you did it, it's defamation.
You did it, as long as it's not true, because truth is the only absolute defense.
You would have to prove that the person is unchaste
in order to go against the defamation. But so with defamation, you have to prove intent.
Uh-huh.
With the specific things that are defamation per se in New York, you don't have to prove intent.
Uh-huh.
So in that situation, the only way to get away from calling someone a public figure unchaste would be to prove that they don't have chastity.
In fact, unchaste. So it's very interesting because that law comes from the a priori assumption that being chaste is a positive thing.
Yeah.
And being unchaste is a negative thing.
Well, exactly. That's otherwise, why would it be a defamatory statement per se?
Tim Dillon brings this up a lot, and he talks about with all the radical ideology that is taking over our concept of gender norms and sexual identity, that he's like, less and less people are having sex. Nobody's fucking anymore. I like a big stiff cock. I'm a gay man. These guys are so pumped up on SSRIs, they can't even get it up anymore. Terrible Tim Dillon impression. But he's probably right with all these different identity things that we're throwing around. I'm pansexual, I'm this, I'm that. I don't know, there was somebody that had clown pronouns. They're not.
Feels made up.
No,
but I mean,
we talked about that 2 podcasts ago. It definitely feels made up, but it's out there in the zeitgeist.
Well, I mean, it's just like when I hear...
But my point is, these people who are doing all of these identity structures and throwing these words around, I doubt they're doing a lot of fucking.
I mean, maybe their relationships transcend that kind of physicality. I don't know.
That's great. I haven't had sex in years. But when I used to be sexually active, I did some dirty, rotten shit. And it was
gotta try it out.
All consensual, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. I love it. But do you? But I think it's a good point. These people ain't fucking, and how are we still living in a society where all of this is going on, where your sexual preferences and your sexual, and not even identity, but just your sexual preferences can be legitimately weaponized against you in a court of public opinion. It's very strange to me.
Yeah,
what is wrong? What is wrong with fucking?
Well, you gotta. Won't somebody please think of the children?
Do we really have to protect children so much from the thing that made them in the first place?
See, my thing about that I think is a funny irony is if whenever you're confronted with sex, you're thinking of the children, you might have a problem.
Yeah, why are those 2 things on your mind at the same time?
Whenever fucking's on your mind, you get nervous about kids. Like, what's up?
Yeah, man. If I was a family guy and I was having sex with my wife and she kept going, "Oh, little Johnny might walk in. Oh, little Johnny might walk in." Be like, why are you thinking about little Johnny? My dick's inside you.
Yeah,
let's go. Good fucking point. That's funny. But I mean, you can see it. I mean, it's so hard baked into our culture now, and obviously this stems from religious ideation. And
well, sure, and there's certain facets of our country that were founded by extremely religious zealots, like
sure.
the Pilgrims and all of that,
Sure. Well, I mean, if we are to believe what we are taught in the grammar school, the first people that migrated over to this continent from the European nations were seeking religious freedom.
Yeah, because they were so stuck up that England didn't like them.
They were so hardcore into their beliefs they couldn't even get along with those guys. And that's still hard baked into the fabric of our society. That Christian or and it's in Muslim. I don't think Buddhists and Hindus really have a huge problem with sex, do they? They like the Eastern.
You're not supposed to be having sex if you're Buddhist because you're supposed to detach yourself from physical desire and all of that. So it's not a negative attitude towards sex, but not having sex is the goal.
Yeah, but it has to be like, oh, I just don't want to anymore. It can't be like you're white knuckling your way through it like Catholic priests, because then you end up just fucking a bunch of kids.
Yeah. I mean,
why is sex and children so conflated in every relatable way? I mean, we can't discuss sex because we have to protect the children. We can't create media content about sex because we have to protect the children. When people are forced into celibacy because of their profession and their religious ideology, they end up fucking children. What's going on?
I don't know, because then you end up into like some weird shit. Like what is it? Matt Walsh, I think was the one who said he's a right-wing pundit, right, online or whatever.
I'm not familiar with the name.
He's a really like hardcore right wing guy who like is one of those people who mixes up his facts really well to sit there and make points that aren't true.
Like a Glenn Beck guy?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
And he's sitting there and he's like talking about how like gender affirming care for teens is child abuse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Don't necessarily disagree with that.
I understand that that's a hot button issue,
Sure.
and there's a nuanced conversation to be had about it.
Sure.
His conversation is not nuanced.
I'm sure.
But in the same breath is sitting there and says things like, teen pregnancy isn't an issue, it's unwed pregnancy. If those teenagers were married, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Does he remember what state of mind he was in when he was 15, 16, 17?
That's so it's like, dude,
what
the fuck?
I felt half-baked until I was 38. I felt like maybe I was coming somewhere close to who I actually was, what I wanted to do, and what I believed in. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why she needs a strong husband to guide her through her teen pregnancy.
Oh my God. If those teenagers were married, everything would be okay. Wow. Well, and that's why I think that when we end up with a quasi right-wing fascist dictatorship, it's going to be deeply religious in nature. It seems like you can't separate those fucking things.
Although, you know what? I mean, Hitler's fascist Germany was very anti-religious. It had a mythos to it.
Yes. It created its own religion based on pagan idealism.
Yeah. It was more of a
which actually
origin story as opposed to an actual, like, sanctified go to church kind of religion.
Well, yeah, it was a celebration of life. It was a celebration of sex. It's a celebration of everything that makes you feel good about being a human being with a physical body that's alive here and now on the earth, rather than, saying, hey, all those things that you enjoy?
I must not do them so that when I die, I can go to the good place.
Yeah, those things are bad. Hey, do you know that thing you're really terrified of? Dying and violence? No, actually, those are fine, as long as you're doing them for the right cause. And here's my next point. Why is sex so hard-baked into our society as something that we have to protect children from, something that's inherently evil, something that can be weaponized to destroy your public image and your career? And don't get me wrong, if you're having unconsensual sex, there's a fucking problem, but that crosses the border to violence. Violence, totally okay, man.
As long as it's not sexual.
Now, we do have NC-17 ratings for sex movies, but I don't believe violence gives it that strict of a rating.
I think you would have to have...
Except for something like Faces of Death, which most of that was fake. But
yeah, I think the graphic nature of what you would have to do to get a violent movie an NC-17 rating would be like fucking off the charts.
Oh yeah. I mean, you would have to be literally
like disemboweling people every 3 seconds and having people's heads explode constantly.
Flayed,
and
I mean, that's fucking crazy. I mean, so, okay, we got one more clip to show, and then let's really settle into the conversation here. So this is a video game that we're all fans of. It's a great franchise. It's called Grand Theft Auto. And the entire point of Grand Theft Auto is you are playing life in God mode, because it's an open world. You got guns, you got bazookas, and if you know the cheat codes, you can blow shit up with your mind. You can go fuck a hooker, which replenishes your health, and then you can beat the shit out of her and take your money back. Now, kids are buying this game. Kids are buying it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to care since people like Tipper Gore came out of power. Nobody's talking about this shit.
Well, kids aren't supposed to be able to buy it. No Walmart or whatever would sell somebody under the age of, I think, what is the mature rating? I think you have to be 17 to buy Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's that, which also, by the way, right now it sounds like I'm taking a very hardcore stance against violence in the media. I'm not. I say take that MC-17 rating off. Take it off. I think a baby should be able to buy it. I think the baby should reach out, and if the baby has money and it can pull its mouth off its mama's nipple for long enough, let the baby buy Grand Theft Auto, and I'll make the point why. Let's watch this clip.
All right.
Or some of it. Let's just, you can skip around a little bit. It's a really long clip, but there's some funny shit in here.
I heard that. Come on.
Hey, these cops are fucking taunting this guy. What do you expect?
And we immediately get an ad. Disappointed.
That's okay.
Disappointed. There you go.
Oh, I'll keep that in. Okay. Dude, the cops were talking shit. Of course they're going to get shot in the head. Do you not think you're going to get shot in the head? Stop talking shit. Oh, here the cop pointed a gun at him, so of course he gets beaten to death with a metal baseball bat. That homeless guy smelled really bad.
That cop was smoking a cigarette
Smoking
in public. He was within 20 feet of an entrance.
Within 20 feet. This is all justified. I think this is teaching
This is
children.
all justified.
I think this is teaching children important lessons.
There's valuable morals to be gotten from this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This guy is winning bringing a knife to a gunfight with multiple police officers. This is fantastic. Children need to learn this. Hey, man, the next time the riots erupt, which is gonna happen, you gotta be prepared. You have to have training. This is like virtual training for the next riot. Here's what you do. Smash the cop's car. He points a gun at you, hit him in the head with a baseball bat. Hit him in the head with a hammer. Just keep hitting him until he doesn't move anymore. Then hit him a few more times and move on. Don't get hit by a car. Sucks.
I feel like you're getting too into this. What was the point again?
All right, stop the clip. You're right. I totally was getting into it because it's fucking funny.
I feel like you were getting a little lost in the sauce there.
So my point is, most people will be like, "Yeah, my 16-year-old, my 15-year-old, he likes to play Grand Theft Auto, but he's a good kid. He doesn't, he's not a bully. He's got friends. They play on the computer. Whatever. He's a straight A student. Who gives a shit? He plays this. But let's say this game was how well can you please a woman? It's like a virtual game where you're just fucking chicks or guys or Z's, M's, you're fucking things and how you are rated on how good you're fucking, No,
and those games do exist.
Well, my little Johnny, he's 15 years old, and he likes to play, I don't know, think of a good title for a sex game.
The point being is that nobody...
I know they exist, and you're going to bring it up.
Well, nobody would allow their kids to play that, and that's the point that we're driving at here, is that it's a situation where, it's fake violence. Like, he knows that's not real.
Right.
That's not, and I completely agree. Like,
So
I agree about the thing with the violence and everything. It's like, that's not causing things like Columbine and crap like that.
No.
It's like, if anything, I would say crap like that's preventing it because
it's a valve. It's a
release
valve.
valve. Yeah. It's a pressure release valve.
Yeah.
But
hey, man, feeling a little violent? Go shoot some homeless people on Grand Theft Auto.
But the funny thing is that
it's not teaching you values. It's just a game.
Yeah, or at least it better not be teaching you values.
Otherwise, we're fucked.
but yeah, and then the funny thing is that there are plenty of sex games. I mean, if you go on Steam, there's tons of games where you're like, hey, here's a woman or a guy, put these two characters together, like sit there and like pick what their body parts are doing with each other kind of thing. You sit there and build up a meter until the other person has an orgasm,
Yeah.
And
so you get like the game judges you on how well you're fucking, just like in this game you're judged on how well you're doing violence.
Yeah. So there's tons of porn games that are on Steam and everything like that. But
every time I watch porn, there's an advertisement for one before my video comes up. I know.
But there's never going to be... You're never going to walk into, like, your aunt's house and find your 9-year-old cousin playing a porn game. It's like, oh, well, he's mature for 9. He knows that that's not real and that's not how he should treat women in real life. It's just, he started getting erections and we wanted... I mean, he knows that that's not real,
Exactly. Why?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Now, if you look at this and you're having an emotional reaction to what I'm saying, I would challenge you and say, where does that emotion come from? Is it culturally built into you from the experience of growing up in this society, or is that genuinely something that you feel?
Yeah, and
do you genuinely think sex is more dangerous than violence? Think about that for a second. Or have you arrived at that conclusion through thought, or is that something that you feel because of the civilization and the culture that you were raised in? Nobody can fucking separate themselves from that stimuli long enough to ask the question, let alone come to a conclusion.
Well, I think the more interesting thing is, like, violence isn't dirty. Like, violence isn't stigmatized. Sex is stigmatized. It's like, you watch somebody shoot somebody in the face and nobody's like, oh my God, that's so dirty. Like, I don't, ooh, this feels weird to be watching this in the
Yeah,
company
but
of
that's
other
my
people.
point. Why are
No,
we
yeah, I'm
so?
agreeing with
Why
you.
are we so? Yeah, well, yeah. So yeah, in the company of other people, right? That might be that might have something to do with it, because violence is so often, unless you're very afraid of getting caught, a very public act. It's a show of bravado and strength. You know, when two drunk people are getting into a fight, generally a crowd gathers around. That's not like, oh man, people are watching, we can't do this right now. Let's
Yeah, nobody has ever punched somebody.
Let's pick this up tomorrow.
Yeah, no.
But if you're having sex with somebody and somebody else walks into the room, the first thing you do is like you stop.
It's like, well, that killed the mood.
There's a very occult reason for that, and it is well, we can go into that another time. But yeah, it's generally something that most people prefer to do in private, unless you're, what's her name?
Oh yeah, and hey,
that
if
politician.
that's what you want to do, more power to you. I'll watch.
Actually, when I used to have sex, that's one of the things I really enjoyed. I liked
voyeurism, sure.
I really enjoyed it. I got off. I thought it was great. Now, I don't enjoy like I came out of that experience where me and my friends are just like fucking our partners in front of each other and enjoying that, or you know, we swapped a few times and shit like that. And I came out of all those experiences going, that was fucking awesome. Never got in a physical altercation where I hurt somebody or got hurt. Came out of that and said, that was fucking awesome. Not once. Always feel like, how can I make sure that doesn't happen again? Even if I won, never feels good.
Well, and the funny thing is that it's almost like the difference between the two things ends up almost being like, where have you been taught shame? You know,
that's a good point. I have been taught shame by how I feel. And I make a conscious, concerted effort to divorce how I feel as much as possible from the stimuli, the opinions of others. Because I see how corrupt that is. And I don't agree because I've thought it through. So I try to make sure that what I'm feeling, if there's any inkling in the feeling, and it's in your body when you feel something. There's no emotion that's not body. It's in your body. There's any inkling in me that what I'm feeling now, if it's shame, it's because what if other people found out? That's something to address.
Yeah.
Are you sincerely shameful, or are you ashamed if somebody else knows about it?
Well, and so to tie that in, it's like if you sit there and get into a fight and you're feeling crappy about it after you get into a fight, you know, if you've engaged in some kind of act of violence and then you feel bad about having enacted violence, it's, you know, from that perspective, it's because you feel shameful when you're losing control of yourself. And so you're
no, not for me.
Oh, I'm okay.
But go ahead. Okay.
So it's like I'm sorry. I thought that's what you were driving as. Go on.
No, because even now, an act of violence is a switch that I have to flip. And the last time I did an extreme act of violence, that was a switch. That was a decision. Like, okay, you crossed the line, and I fucking won, and I'm not proud of it. You know the situation.
No, yeah, I got you.
Okay. But I walked away from that with raw knuckles, and the other person barely walked away from it. They're lucky they're still alive. Did not feel that I was shameful because I lost control. That was a conscious choice. I remember making the decision.
Okay.
But it still felt shameful, even though I felt justified.
To have resorted to violence then?
Yes.
Or? Okay, I got you.
I felt ashamed afterward because there is no because. It just didn't feel good.
Yeah, because why should people have to do that to each other? That shouldn't get to that.
It shouldn't get to that.
Okay, that's fine. Still kind of fits in with what I was talking about there. And when you're sitting there and you're engaging in sexual acts, it's like, I'm not ashamed of this. This is fun. This is fine. This is good. You know, whatever. But when you've been taught to target shame in different ways, winning a fight becomes a boastful experience. You want people to see your physical prowess.
That's weird.
And that's a situation that
it's also a mating right. So there is some biological necessity to that. That is like a mating dance.
Well, I mean, think about organized sports and stuff, like things like football.
Or two horned animals bucking heads.
It's a display of prowess.
Correct.
And I think that, I mean, that's why when you sit there and you watch a movie like John Wick or something like that, it's the choreography that makes it
I love those fucking movies.
Yeah, it's the choreography that makes it seem like this man has like infinite battle prowess, basically.
Gun fu.
I know gung fu.
No, gun fu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I fucking love gun fu.
Yeah, I was conflating the
Yeah, I saw that.
Show me. But yeah, so it's like I do understand from that aspect that's why violence seems to be more acceptable. I think that the shame that we place on intimacy, like, and I don't even think it's just sexual. It almost seems like a shame on emotional intimacy. Like people get bashful about seeing two people like being too physically romantic with each, like not like making out, but just like, you know, they'll see two people like leaning their heads together on a subway or something and be like, oh, get a room. You know, it's like there's this shame about positive emotional and physical connection.
Jesus, that's such an excellent point. I didn't even have that in my head to go into that. That's huge. Yeah. And the shame of intimacy manifests on so many different levels culturally.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who just have this weird, like this, and I can understand somebody being possessive of their emotions, being possessive of their relationship or whatever, you know, not being like, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to sit there and put that on display or whatever. But it's like,
why do we feel like intimacy is shameful?
Maybe we're embarrassed?
Why would you be embarrassed by the capacity to share your experience simultaneously with another individual?
Maybe it's just because the intimate you isn't the outward you. Maybe it's that you're different when you're in those states than you choose to present outwardly.
The walls have to come down.
Yeah, because you're sitting there and you're in a situation where, you know,
the protections have to be removed.
Yeah.
What Wilhelm Reich called the character armor dissolves. Your body acts differently. Your energy's different. You think differently.
And maybe that's why the people
you build a genuine connection with another living being. But in order to do that, the barriers, the defense has to be, at least temporarily, dismantled. Why do we find that so shameful?
And maybe again, it's a worry of losing control. Just like, you know, you can have worries of losing control with violence. Maybe, I mean, you sit there and you think about arousal. It's like, maybe the reason why everybody's so comfortable with the concept of sex is because if people were having candid conversations about sexual material, they could become aroused and not want to be aroused around the person that they're going to end up becoming aroused around, or things like that, you know? I don't know.
Well, think about this too. I mean, this is a hypothetical, but man, you hit on a point that I was not expecting. So we're going to go off on a little tangent here. So sex is considered dirty. Violence is considered okay. I mean, generally speaking, in our culture, and that's really what I wanted this podcast to be about. But let's think about this within a subculture. Let's say the pornography industry. And
sure.
What's the movie by Kevin Smith, so-and-so and so-and-so make a porno?
Oh, Zach and Miri make a porno?
Yeah, there's a scene in there where Zach and Miri are actually kind of in love with each other, but they don't know it. And the sex scene comes up where those two have to have sex. And it's so intimate.
They can't do it casually.
They've been filming all of these sex scenes with their friends and just pairing up randomly to film these sex scenes to make a porno, to make money, to pay the rent, and just having a grand old time at it. But when it comes where Zach and Miri's scene comes up, their sex act betrays so much intimacy that everybody on set becomes uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah, because it's private.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why does intimacy have to be private?
I don't know. Do you think that's something on the viewer, or that's because because in that scenario they were completely engrossed in their intimacy. They forgot that everyone was around them. Everybody became
That's a beautiful thing, and if
everybody became uncomfortable around them.
If I was
from being it's inside outside.
If I was witnessing that, I would try to put myself there and draw energy from it, because that's a beautiful thing to be a part of, as much as I think that's a beautiful thing to witness.
But in that situation, nobody was a part of it. They were ignoring everyone else. It's an insider-outsider thing. When they're
do we feel ashamed to witness intimacy? Now that's one side, but ashamed to display intimacy is a completely different thing.
Sure.
But are we ashamed to witness intimacy because it makes us feel irrelevant in the moment?
I think maybe that might be a part of it.
It erases us in the consciousness of somebody else,
of those other people who are experiencing that intimacy.
Thing.
Yeah.
And let's put it on the other side. Why would you feel ashamed of having an intimate moment in front of other people, other than the animal thing, which is protecting the mating rights, which that's biological, but I mean spiritually and mentally, why would you feel ashamed to display intimacy in front of others? And it's definitely not because you feel like you're diminishing their ego. You feel like you're betraying yourself in some way.
I think it could go either way with that, actually, because I could see, like, let's say you're at a party with your girlfriend or something, and she's a little drunk and she starts getting really handsy with you or something like that.
But I mean, we're talking intimate, not like playfully grabbing your butt.
No, yeah, like
intimate.
Yeah, like actually jamming her hand down your pants kind of thing.
No. Jamming, that's not intimate.
Slithering her hand down your pants?
But you know what I'm saying. There's a different energy. We're talking about porn fucking versus like I'm in love with you fucking.
No. I'm talking about.
There's a different vibe.
So you're mistaking the scene that I'm trying to paint. I'm just painting it with a sexual brush, because a lot of times people won't get too incredibly uncomfortable by somebody staring longfully into someone's eyes or something like that. They'll just be like, "Oh, these fuckers," It's like
Anton LaVey said, a misnomer in culture: all the world loves a lover. That's not true. Other lovers hate lovers because they consider their choice of a love object inferior to their own. Employers hate lovers because they can't concentrate on their work. The loveless hate lovers because they're jealous of what they have. Nobody loves a lover.
Yeah, exactly.
The saying "all the world loves a lover" patently false.
but no, what I was driving at wasn't the sexual nature of it. I was just trying to cross that Rubicon into what would make people uncomfortable. And so I think that there's two reactions that you could have if your partner was engaging in public intimacy. And the one not that there's only two reactions, I'm saying the two that would make you try to stop it.
PDAs, public displays of affection.
Yeah, so it's like the two situations in which I could see somebody going to stop that is, one, insecurity in that you are embarrassed for having your private world bleed into your public world, to have the secrets that you keep, because it's a loss of self control. It's a loss of, because it's
secrets.
Yeah, but I was about to tie it back into secrets. Okay. I was going to say, because everybody's got secrets. No one can fully know someone. And when you start bringing that intimate stuff forward, you're starting to let people dangerously close to the core of who is you. The second reason that I could understand is someone who is mindful of the embarrassment of others.
That's fine. That's just being socially polite.
And socially aware, and sitting there and being like, we need to stop this intimacy because I don't want
to make other people uncomfortable.
I don't want to segregate us from the larger group, because we're becoming intimate, and we're becoming a small cluster and excluding everyone else.
But if nobody else was uncomfortable with being in the physical proximity of that experience, there would be no reason to.
You would sense the embarrassment of the others and sense their exclusion and be like, we should stop this. We're excluded.
But what I'm saying is, if that didn't exist as a social phenomenon,
then you wouldn't realize it and stop it for that reason. Yeah.
You would have no reason to stop it.
Yeah, to care about
that. That's a social thing, I think.
Yeah, I think that definitely falls into more of a social
kind of
situation.
You know what I think it is? It might just be a matter of confidence. I think you were getting very close to the nut in the shell when you said that you're getting very close to displaying who you actually are.
Yeah, you're opening a window into something that's only yours. And if you run out of things that are only yours, you kind of cease to be.
But do you? You really don't.
From an super ego standpoint.
No,
yeah.
I see your point, but I'm saying that.
Oh yeah, obviously
you're saying
don't.
that's the way people.
That's a psychological construct. I'm not saying that you literally dissolve.
Yeah, it's very close to what the Eastern mystics call ego death.
Yeah,
it never really dies.
Sure.
But what the ego does have to do is accept its own death. It doesn't die until it dies, but it does have to accept its own death. That's a healthy ego.
Well, yeah, and an ego also has to accept itself in order to be healthy.
An individual has to accept itself.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think displaying to others something that is true, that's the only real truth. The only real truth in the world, I've said this over and over again, but I've never said it on a podcast as far as I can remember. I'm going to say it now for the first time. I am a sorcerer. I do not believe in the objectivity even of material reality because I have warped it so much and so quickly in my experience through a sheer act of will with almost no interaction with physical reality, that I do not believe this is anything more than a more complex dream than we have when we're sleeping at night. That's the way this reality seems to be set up to me. It's a very complex, interactive dream. That being said, I think that there is really no such thing as truth. What I call true, I redefine for myself. I do not say that's true. I say, that's useful. Like Russell Brand says, I'm an addict. We were talking about before. If I were to say that about myself, let's say I quit drinking or I quit smoking, and I went pure cold turkey abstinence like Russell Brand did with drugs, and I said, well, I'm an addict, and I identified with being an addict, I'm calling myself an addict in order to steel man my position of abstinence from those things which I know are bad for me. That would not work for me. So when Russell Brand says I'm an addict, that's not true, but it works for him. It works for him.
Yeah,
so
it's a mechanism to create the desired effect, which is to stop being beholden to his vices.
Exactly. That wouldn't work for me. That's the mechanism that works for him. So I always say there's no such thing as truth, but there is what's useful and what is not. And what's the Assassin's Creed?
Oh, nothing is, what is it? Nothing is true, everything is permitted.
Nothing is true, everything is permitted. What's the full Assassin's Creed?
Oh, it's,
people will try to convince you that things are true. I tell you nothing is true. People will try to make rules against you, and I tell you everything is permitted. Something like that.
Yeah, and it's, we live in the darkness to serve the light, or something like that.
Artists use lies to tell the truth. So that's the way I see reality, but I think you really came to the nut in the shell because the intimacy that you would be displaying in front of others, we feel a vulnerability in doing that.
Well, and
that is the most true thing in the entire world that other people could witness, would be an intimacy displayed. That's true.
See, but the thing that I find interesting is extrapolating from that. The reason why I think the vulnerability of the situation starts cutting to somebody's core and making them feel uncomfortable is because it's an extremely subjective truth.
But you're talking about the witness of the intimate act.
No, I'm talking about the person committing the intimate act.
Okay, so start again. So from the perspective of the person committing the intimate act under the viewership of strangers,
that maybe the reason why the uncomfortability could come in that person is because they know that it's only true to them. That intimacy doesn't exist for those other people. You're exposing a truth that is only true to you. But
everybody has the capability to be true to themselves.
No, and I understand that. But what I'm saying is maybe that's part of the psychology that sits there and builds into the dynamic, is the fact that the truth that I am intimate with this person, the way I am with this person, I am only that way with this person.
That's a shame. I think that's a shame. I'm saying for you.
Oh, no. I'm
saying that most people feel that. I think that's a shame. Where do I want to go from here? Let's talk about this for a second.
Well, here, let me posit a question to you, actually,
Sure.
to sit there and roll this kind of back into.
I
what
really
we were
like
talking
that you
about.
brought up the concept of intimacy. This is a great conversation. Go ahead.
So now my question is obviously I'm not advocating children be exposed to hardcore pornography, but
No, because hardcore pornography has nothing to do with the energy of intimacy.
no, that's what I was just prefacing.
Go ahead.
So the question is if children were taught healthier intimacy by not being sheltered from intimacy so much.
Sheltered. I like where that went.
Would everybody have as much of a problem with intimacy? Because if you grew up with intimacy not being so secret, it's almost like how we have higher rates of alcoholism in America because we have a much more stringent view on drinking. Because it's very much like, oh no, you cannot touch alcohol until you're 21. It's this law of the forbidden bullshit.
Correct.
That sits there and creates this paradigm where kids then grow up like, ooh, the taboo of it all.
Which, being a Satanist, I enjoy living in that paradigm because it makes kind of doing things that go against social norms more fun to be a little naughty.
Oh well, sure, but the point is that like
it adds a flip to the senses a little bit. Where the first time I did engaged in a group sex act, I was like, not a lot of people get to do that. That was cool.
Yeah,
that wasn't the whole thing, but it definitely
it's a little
added a little
it,
spice to it that I rebelled.
Sure, but I think that when you're talking about and that's fine when we're talking about sex acts because again, like you said, it's not quite the same as the concept of true intimacy.
Right.
But it's like, I feel like that because of the prohibition, because we tied sex and intimacy inexorably, because of the puritanical, because of the puritanical nature of the way we look at everything. So when we've tied true intimacy to the sex act, and then we have to protect, somebody please think of the children whenever sex comes up, we're also damaging intimacy because we've tied it to it. And maybe if we untethered intimacy and the sex act, maybe it would be a healthier way to look at it.
I think public intimacy being taboo really comes down to fear of exposure. Fear of exposure of what you truly are.
But then why? But then why do you have the stereotypical thing of a mother covering her children's eyes? That's what I'm saying. Well, if two people are making out on the street and you've got the stereotypical movie thing of the mom like reaching down and slapping her hand over the kid's
everybody
eyes.
In the audience laughs because the kid pulls the hand away and he's all into it. That's perfect. Because that's truly the little child. That's truly what we are before we're programmed.
Yeah, exactly. Before no, you don't watch.
The little kid wants
to.
The little kid wants to see that. That's a beautiful thing, and that's the way I feel when I witness it. I not always. It took some work, but I didn't work on that directly. It was like
it was a side effect. I have to
working
on other things.
This cultural programming that's not working for me at all. It may be true for some people, but it's not working for me.
Well, yeah, and
now when I see that, I'm enlivened by it. I'm so happy that exists, and I actually feel energized by witnessing it and being in the proximity of it. Yeah, it makes my day brighter.
I kind of feel like it's almost akin to the concept of like.
Now I'm going to be honest. If I see like two gay men doing it, my body has a reaction that displaces that a little bit, and maybe that's something I should work on, or I should just accept that I do not find that visual imagery conducive. But the display of intimacy, in theory, I think that's a beautiful thing. I just. For some reason, witnessing that still makes me. I'm taken aback a little bit.
Yeah,
but that's cultural.
I feel like that's social programming. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. And I've actually like.
I certainly can't, and will never be able to.
Be aroused by it?
No. When you can put yourself in somebody, empathize with it. So I can't put myself there.
I actually can at this point. Like,
Can you? That's
yeah,
great.
if I
I
see,
can't draw energy from that.
No, yeah, if I see a male pair or a female pair who are in love, who are being intimate, who, you know, it's like, no, that actually, like, not only warms my heart to see two.
I'm
people.
okay with two females, but two males, it's still.
Well, but now we're
I
talking
can't
about
empathize.
sexual enticement, so that means you still have that a little bit tied to the sex
intimate
drive,
well, the intimacy and the breaking down the barriers. I still see other men predominantly as threat to ego, I think is what it is.
Yeah,
so seeing intimacy displayed so openly between two men, it is a mirror to me of what if I were able to display what I truly am without being afraid in front of. It's a confidence issue. I think really is.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a social programming thing.
I think that's the underlying reason why public displays of intimacy, because you feel like you've weakened yourself. You've broken down your defenses and your barriers. You are showing what you actually are in the truest nature of yourself. And we should all just be fucking confident with that. The little boy that's pulling his mom's hand away because he wants to see it, that's a joyous thing. That's joyous and enlivening and glorious and beautiful. And that makes life worth living. That intimacy, that connection that you can have with another sovereign being. Crowley said it really well. Crowley, a spirit that he was channeling at the time. We are made separate so that we can experience the joy of union.
Well,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
That's beautiful.
Because if we were all the same thing, then we wouldn't be able to experience interacting with each other.
If we could make all interaction, rather than using the ego as a vehicle, can't do it. Not right now. Rather than using the ego as a vehicle for all interaction, just come from a place of what is the only pure truth on the planet, which is the expression of intimacy. The world would be a completely different fucking place.
I tell you,
if people didn't feel like they had to defend themselves against each other, and they could just express all that love and joy and fucking life that's within them, and let it out without feeling like they are going to be attacked for it.
Yeah, and I think
if there was no fear.
Yeah, and I think that if that world could come around, I think you'd watch all of the sexual identity and gender identity.
It would melt away.
It would just
because
it wouldn't be something that people would get mad at. Because why would you get mad at that?
Why would you have to proclaim something? Just be the thing that's inside. You don't have to put words. There's no. It's all a proximity. It feels like the whole identity thing. It feels like water circling a drain to get to what's actually going on beneath the surface.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that is coming.
The gravity's pulling, but we're still in the spiral.
And it's because the spiral is because there's things that are chasing each other. It's because you're sitting there and, like, you know, you feel, when you feel attacked, you feel the need to defend yourself. When you feel oppressed, you feel the need to rise up. And whether that oppression is manufactured or true, the emotions are real.
Hey, listen, if you are being oppressed or you are being attacked, I like what Jordan Peterson says: be a fucking monster, because that exists within you as well. That's just a choice to express it. Be as violent as possible, save your own life, and if you need to kill the person that is attacking you in order to save your own life, fucking do it. That exists within us. That exists within. I know, but I'm saying let's bring it to that level. That's the most extreme level, would be on the physical plane.
Oh, sure. If you're being attacked, then you absolutely need to defend yourself tooth and nail. Yeah, sure.
Be a monster in all ways when you're being attacked, but make certain you're being attacked, of course. But you should be a threat to be dealt with. Everybody should understand that you have that capacity.
So to tie this into the concept of a previous podcast, as we just happened to tangentially go back into this subject, what if there's a third party that's telling you you're being attacked, and there's a third party that's telling you that something needs to be attacked?
I like where this conversation is going without politicizing it, but I see your point.
Yeah, I'm just saying as a little tie back. We didn't need to like litigate it. But,
yeah. That's exactly correct. And your emotions latch onto this third entity every time they tell you that you're being attacked.
You need to defend yourself because you're being told that believe it. The galls are at the wall. You
believe it because you feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the emotion is real.
I think, and I can only talk about myself, the reason why I hide that part of myself is kind of the same reason why it was really difficult for me to decide to do exactly what we're doing right now. Now, nobody's watching, but putting something like this out there on the internet that anybody could potentially watch.
Yeah, there's a feeling of exposure to it, sure.
There's a fear of exposure. And I think that fear, the fear is not necessarily the fear of exposure, defined as the fear of exposure, but it tastes the same. It's the same fear to put yourself out there, to express your power, to express what you are. It is in a way the same fear. And wow, I'm really happy that you brought up intimacy. That's a great place to take that. Let's do this. Let's take a break. Then we'll get back to sex versus violence. And we'll finish up the conversation with that a little bit. Because
right.
I gotta pee.
Nah, I gotcha.
All
right, we'll be right back.
Be right back. All right, we are back. And, I thought a little bit about it. And we do this once a month. We try to record as many episodes as we can when we can get together because we both have busy schedules.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that where we left that conversation, that's a beautiful, perfect place to leave it. There is something else I wanted to do before you leave. I have some presents for you. So I want to preface, and I don't want to get into another political discussion. I think we hammered the horse dead with one of the previous ones that we did. What my view is on what's going on in culture, what your view is on what's going on in culture, and I think you and I came to some sort of agreement on that I thought was really cool. So I want to get back into it. But all right, I do have some presents for you. So this is going to be a hard pivot in the podcast.
Gotcha.
So no apologies for that. It is what it is. Bring up that last clip that I gave you of Russell Brand.
Okay, gotcha. Here, hold up.
Hard pivot.
Oh,
that doesn't look good.
Oh, guess you can't hit full screen.
Can't hit full screen on that.
I figured it would bring it to the top and bottom of it instead of sitting there and doing whatever stupid crap that was.
That was stupid crap.
That was some stupid crap. All right, there you go. Alrighty.
They started this fire. They started it with a laser from space. And whether it's true or not, it not only feels true, in terms of its results, it is kind of true. There is a conspiracy to keep you poor and to benefit rich elites. But it's everywhere. It's almost like water to a fish. It's not a conspiracy. It's just the environment you live in. You live in corruption. Every time there's a disaster or fire, you bet it's going to benefit elites. You bet the poorest people are going to suffer more. Every time there's a pandemic, you bet they're going to control you more and rich interests are going to benefit from it. We might not find a smoking gun or a beaming laser, but you can be sure that BlackRock and the world's most powerful individuals will benefit down the line from this disaster. The trouble is, by then, me and you, unless we're very, very careful, will be focusing on the conspiracy theory or the tragedy of 2024 or 2025. So for now, let's focus on those that are truly suffering.
The people of Hawaii who have lost their lives and who have lost their homes. But let's not get so caught up in grief that we forget how these disasters are exploited by the powerful that benefit from a system that seems to be advantaged every time there's a disaster.
So, and he's making the point, it doesn't really matter whether there is or is not a laser that's starting these wildfires. It feels like it's orchestrated. It seems like it's orchestrated because every time there is a disaster, and you call this, it's not crimes of conspiracy, it's crimes of opportunity.
Yeah, because the system is structured for those benefits to be reaped by a certain class of people.
I have a confession.
What's that?
We're going to come public with this right now. As one of the heads of the New World Order, I can tell the public for the first time that, let's go to the main camera. I can tell the public for the first time that we do have lasers in space. We are starting the wildfires in order to profit from making extremely valuable property saleable that is being withheld from us by economically disadvantaged people. It's not right. We need to make the natural order come back. And sometimes you got to break an omelet before you make some eggs.
You gotta break an omelet before. I think you got that wrong.
Yeah, we'll go with that. So we do have lasers in space. They are Jewish. Those guys fucking rock. They figured it out first. And
I thought you meant that like the lasers themselves were practicing Jews.
No, they're unconscious machines. So far. We're trying. But we do have the technology, and as one of the heads of the New World Order, I was actually inducted into the Jewish Space Laser Program.
Oh, well, congratulations.
As a Goyim official.
A Goyim official. What? So wait. So that means then that on Saturdays, you're the one who has to control the laser because they're not allowed to do it because of their faith?
And it's so much fun. That's actually what I do on Saturdays. Like, that's my New World Order job. Like, I don't go to the office. I'm going to do the laser.
Going to push the big red
shiny
candy-like button.
Oh my god, that candy-like button. I'm like, who do I target today? It's so much fun. So, I have some gifts for you because I did talk to my co-conspirators. Now it's not a conspiracy. It's out in the open. I did talk to my co-conspirators, and you are no longer talking head number 6.
Oh, gasp.
You are now talking head number 5, my friend.
Ooh la la.
And you have been officially inducted into the Jewish Space Laser Agency.
The Jewish Space Laser Program.
I have some gifts for you from the New World Order and the agency. This just in. So I received this a couple weeks ago, and I have been waiting to present this to you publicly.
Oh, Lord.
So we have the Secret Jewish Space Laser Corps, Mazel Tov. And I have your official cap. You can get that on my camera. This is your official cap. There you go, sir. Let me see if it fits.
Mazel Tov.
Let me see if it fits.
Who makes this? Oh Lord!
I'm gonna tell you how we get away with this in a second. There's a very specific way that we get away from having this merchandise, and basically what happens is everybody who buys any of these things, most of your money goes to some far left charity. Like, they actually were very proud, and they sent me an email after I made this purchase.
There you go.
That 90% of the money that I spent with them to get these gifts for you actually went to fund a charity for underprivileged, bipedal, quadriplegic, bisexual, trans midgets. And I'm okay with that, but most people on the right wouldn't be okay with that, so that's how we get away with this.
I'm speechless, literally.
I know, you're so honored, I can tell. Now, the next thing that I have for you, and they sent me mine too, I haven't been in the agency that long. They like what we're doing with the podcast, and they wanted to honor us. So, I got a couple of these. I got one for me. I got one for you. This is our official Medal of Honor for our induction into the society. Man, I should have opened this shit first. Tearing through shit with my teeth on the podcast. All right. So let me take this out of the packaging. I'm not going to put mine on because that packaging's ridiculous. That would take too long. God damn it. Yes, I just spit on my own floor. Go fuck yourselves. All right. All right, so here is your official pin, so that when you go to the agency, if we have a meeting, and you are now included in the group text.
Oh, well, good.
So if we have a meeting, you will be notified, but it's encoded. I'm going to show you that in a second. So this is your official Secret Jewish Space Laser Corps pin. You are on the Goyim Squad, just like me. Muzzle tough. So this is the official pin that you get, and this will grant you access. This has a magnetic chip in it. This will grant you access into the core building. So congratulations. I'd like to have you put that on right now.
Oh, Lord. Where did you... anyway. Lord.
I think you must feel so fucking honored right now. This is great. I'm so happy for you.
Oh.
I am so proud that... I mean, and they see the work that you do here with me, and they were like, yeah, we trust this guy with this technology. You know what I mean? I'm so proud of you. I knew that the New World Order would see in you what I saw in you eventually. I really do. Now, I told you that when you get group texts about the secret meetings, okay, they're going to be encoded. We can't have all these fucking assholes knowing what we're talking about, and you can intercept group texts even if you have an Apple phone. It's possible. We have space lasers, motherfucker. This technology exists. I can fucking access your phone from halfway across the world with a few lines of code. Doesn't matter what type of phone you have. Here's how we get around that. This is the Jewish Space Laser Corps decoder pin. So this, you put the pin on the correct symbol. There's going to be a symbol before every text message, and this pin will show you which letter equals which letter. So we have a pine cone or something. Then we have a Jewish rune. Then we have
Jewish rune.
I know. I know. Then we have that what's that horn thing that's always on the Thanksgiving
Cornucopia.
Yeah, cornucopia. Then we have a glass of wine. That's my favorite. So all my texts are probably going to be in the glass of wine decoder.
I'm pretty sure that all of your texts do result from glasses of wine, yes.
And then we have a wig of grapes, a spig of grapes, and then we have a bumblebee, a honeybee, and then I'm back to the pine cone. I don't know what the fuck that is. Anyway, so we can actually send messages to each other with the Jewish Space Laser program, even on Twitter, publicly. And nobody will know what we're talking about because they need this decoder pin. They need this pin. And if you don't have this pin, you won't know what the hell we're saying. It's going to be great. So we can post messages publicly on Twitter, and only the people that are in the core are going to know what we're saying. So this, keep it secret and keep it safe. Now, I actually got you elevated to the second degree of the Jewish Space Laser Corps. You are not an inductee. You actually were privileged with, you've been doing such great work, you have been privileged with a higher rank than an inductee.
Okay.
Now, most of the inductees, like when I started, we just go there on Saturday to run the laser for the Jews during the Sabbath because they can't do it. It's against their religion. I totally get that. And I had a lot of fun doing it. I was like, thank you for the privilege of running your laser for you. I am happy to do this. Who do you want me to target? The really cool thing about that is once you advance beyond that, they give you your own control console. So I actually have for you, and we're going to have a technician from the Corps come in and wire it up. It's going to be a permanent installation on your table here for the podcast.
Oh, Lord.
So we have your actual console interface for the Jewish Space Laser. That which means you can vaporize people or property right here while we're doing the podcast. Hey, did something that we looked up online piss you off? Fucking vaporize them. I'll show you how to do it once it's hooked up. Actually, the lasers in space interface with Google Earth. So it's super easy. Google's in on it. All right. So you just go to Google Earth, you find the area or the person, and it works through Facebook as well. And you identify the location of that person. You ever wonder why Facebook wants, hey, are you at that Chinese restaurant? Do you want to post that? This is why. So here you go. So it's very simple. We'll wire it up for you. On, off. You put it on. You hit the button. And once you're hooked up to Google Earth, that laser will take out the target. 90% accuracy rate. We're going to get better.
We're going to get better. There have been some misses. It's like the drone strikes. They just don't go well.
Hey, listen, it's collateral damage, all right? It's still an experimental technology, but we really are getting there.
You call it civilian casualties. I call it collateral damage.
So I'm going to keep that. Those are gifts for you. You have to take those with you because you may be called in to cover on a Saturday. This I'm going to keep here because this we're going to wire up to the laser and I'm going to get the interface ready. And you can just vaporize people or things or property right here while we're doing podcasts. And, fucking congratulations, man.
No, well, thank you. Very, very, very appreciative.
It's been a pleasure. And I really like the work that we do together. And you should be very proud that you were included, man. It wasn't me like begging. They saw the work that you're doing and, they were like, this is a gentleman that we think has a lot of worth, and we want to honor him with this privilege. You now have a license to kill.
Well, that's always nice to have. I would say, in response, thank you very much, and nothing about this bit has been kosher. At all.
That's why we're on the Goyim Squad.
Lord.
All right. We're going to be right back with the possession, once again, of our new secret Jewish space laser program inductee. He's going to be possessed by the spirit of Alex Jones, right after these words. Hello, friends. Now, I know what you're thinking. How did I become a puppet? And the answer is very simple. I have been possessed by a reptilian entity for the New World Order. So essentially, I'm a puppet anyway, and I'm just showing you now my true form. But you may be wondering, how can I get turned into a puppet? Does it hurt? Do I have to sell my soul? And although I would recommend selling your soul, the answer is you don't have to. Really, all you have to do is spend some money. If the thought of being possessed by a reptilian entity makes you maybe a little squeamish, I would recommend going to visit my very good friend, the Crazy Cat Lady, who enjoys turning people into puppets. Here's how you do it. You go to etsy.com/shop/8arc4me, and you contact the Crazy Cat Lady, and she'll be happy to turn you, your friends, your loved ones, all into puppets. Now, when you first go visit the page, what you'll find is that she's already turned a lot of other people into puppets. Now, you can buy those people as well. It's totally legal. Puppets technically have no rights. And it doesn't matter if they used to be human or not. I looked into it. So you can buy the people that have already been enslaved, or you can enslave yourself, and maybe somebody else will buy you. So there's a link, and we're going to show you on the screen, and it says custom order request or something like that, and you can message the cat lady yourself and send her a picture of whoever you want turned into a puppet. Maybe it's a friend, or a family member, or a pet. Maybe you need a unique gift idea for a holiday or a birthday. Or maybe you think this person already is kind of a puppet and you want to show them what you really think of them, with them being none the wiser. That way you can have a good laugh, they'll think that you really care about them, look how much thought they put into my gift, and really everybody's happy, but you know what the score is. So go to 8arc4me on Etsy today, and through the power of black magic and Crazy Cat Lady voodoo, you can have anybody that you want turned into a puppet, or you can choose from people who have already been enslaved in puppetry, and you can own them. Maybe you need a babysitter for your kids to teach them the terrible things about the world that you're just not brave enough to tell them. Or maybe you just need a new housekeeper or your own personal court jester. But you can't afford to pay anyone. So go to etsy.com/shop/8arc for me today. Buy a puppet. Get somebody that you love or hate turned into a puppet, or turn yourself into a puppet. And enter the coupon code NWONOW for 20% off your first order. Again, that's etsy.com/shop/8arc for me and order a puppet today. Because either way, I don't care if you get your friends, your family, or yourself turned into a puppet, or you buy a puppet that's already there. Either way, I make money, and I like money. Go give me money. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the newest inductee to the secret Jewish space laser program, the Goyim Division, is now possessed by the spirit of Alex Jones. Enjoy.
All right, folks, back here on the prison planet again, coming at you with InfoWars. Now, we got some very important stuff to go over. As always, I'm going to sit there and bring you the headlines here that tell you the truth that you need to know to understand what we're fighting against, what we're fighting for, who we're fighting against, who we're fighting for, where we're fighting, when we're fighting, on what plane of existence we're fighting, where the war is essentially going to happen. Now, what we got going on today, let's see what we got here. East Tennessee aglow over growth in nuclear jobs. Now, that is not a pun. These people are literally irradiated. Now, what you have to understand is these nuclear jobs, I mean, this is where it gets to me. You think about the Manhattan Project, you think about Oppenheimer, all of this stuff, these crazy people who we got in to come over from Germany to sit there and create all this terrible technology. Like, sure, won us the war, but at what cost? I'll tell you at what cost. The cost of oil-producing Americans. We sit there and we've got Tennessee. They're going to have this clean nuclear energy. Yeah, clean. Sure, I'm sure it's clean. You ever sit there and you see Homer Simpson coming out with that uranium rod on his back? You tell me that that's not why all those people only have 4 fingers. Now, if they were drilling oil like Ronald Jesus Reagan Christ sat there and demands that, I mean, he didn't put fake dinosaurs in the ground for us to not drill them up 10,000 years after the earth was created and sit there and get glorious, wonderful, fiery fossil fuels from that. And that's the reason why East Tennessee is aglow. I'm telling you, it's not from smiles, because their teeth are all going to fall out. All right.
What little they have left.
Now, here we got the Daily News coming through in this New York's hometown paper. Diarrhea of a madman. Vile poop attack spree on the Upper East Side. 2 women hit. Suspect still on the runs. Now, I do appreciate a good turn of phrase. I'm going to sit there and say right now, you got to understand, these poop attacks, this person is obviously some kind of demented leftist. Probably Antifa. Who knows? I'm sure that he thinks that what he's doing is right, but the only right is the far right. Now,
like you just stopped.
Voters to vote on whether to vote. This is perpetuity. You have to understand, this will never end. And this is the madness of our country right now. Because until we can get a vote on whether or not to vote, we're not going to be able to vote on that vote.
Now, Alex, we're going to do one more headline before we break for commercial.
Sure, that's fine. But as long as we're breaking for commercial, because you got to understand, we need the income.
I understand.
Now, and we don't have a vote on that. We don't get to vote on whether or not to vote about whether or not you get to vote with your money on who you want to sit there and be representing you when the shit hits the fan. Like that guy. He's thrown it at fans probably. I don't know. He's still on the runs. Now, next, a committee appoints a committee to appoint a committee. Now, this is bureaucracy, my friends. Now, I don't know if these two stories are interconnected or not, but the whole thing is that you got to understand that until they vote to form that committee, to form that committee, to form that committee, nothing's going to get done. It's just gridlock. That's why we need a dictator. We just need somebody to come down and put a stop to all this anti-democratic voting nonsense. Because you got to understand, it's got to be harder to vote because that's democratic. It's got to be harder to sit there and make any kind of choices because in order to have a good, healthy, functioning democracy, we need to stop voters from voting on voting who aren't actually voters that can vote. And I guarantee you that they're going to have a House committee to decide on a committee, to make a committee to look into the voting on the voting. Now,
Whoa!
we got some nutraceuticals. We got to keep the lights on here. I understand they're very colorful, and you have to understand that when you have colorful lights, you have to sit there and you have to put even more energy into keeping them on. And without your support of buying these delightful, harmonious, God-approved nutraceuticals, we can't keep the lights on. Sure, God can keep the lights on himself, but God doesn't teach people. God doesn't give out fish. He teaches men how to fish, and I'm going to fish you right now. What do we got?
Pectoral allegiance.
Pectoral allegiance.
No, pectoral allegiance.
Oh, pectoral allegiance. Sorry, I thought that sounded a little off.
Yeah.
So, pectoral allegiance, I'll tell you, if you want to sit there and show your allegiance to the truth and your allegiance to not only this country, but this show and my bank account, you need to sit there. You want to get swole. You want to sit there and get rid of those man boobs, turn them into man pecs. If you sit there and prove your allegiance to your own health with pectoral allegiance, I'm going to tell you, your chest is going to look like a giant shield to defend against the liberals. Now, the way that we make this, we sit there and we take only the finest gorilla pecs. Don't ask us where we got them. The gorillas are still alive. Don't worry. I don't want PETA getting on our ass because, you know, they're crazy about their racist milk. Sure, racist milk. We've already litigated this. We understand that the cows are losing their jobs. We understand that they're milking pigs now. I don't even want to get into it again. The entire thing that we got to go with here is we anesthetize these gorillas. We surgically remove their pecs to sit there and get the hormones that only can come from strong silverbacks. And we sit there and we grind them into a fine paste. It comes in a can. Almost looks like dog food. Tastes like it too. There's a label that says dog food under the label that we glued on it. Don't pay attention to that. The point is while you're eating it, you will feel your chest swell, and it won't just be swelling with pride. It'll be swelling with good, down-home American values and also at least 2,000 calories. What do we got next?
The label that we glued to it.
All right. Deaf people are the focus of fraud. I tried to warn people and save some of them from investigating, but some didn't listen. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's hard to get deaf people to listen. You know why? Because they want you to talk with your hands. I'm not going to learn another language. We speak English here. You got to understand. That's just downright un-American. What, you want me to throw gang signs at you until you understand? Next thing you know, you're going to be telling me that those gang signs that I'm using are white supremacist hand signals. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to buy into it. I'm not going to fuel this. If those deaf people aren't listening, that's on them. Jesus didn't heal the deaf. He healed the blind. And you are blind if you cannot see that this is a leftist conspiracy to sit there and just create more gang inner city stuff to sit there and just take over all these liberal cities, all these gang wars. Now we got deaf people perpetrating it. Where does it end? And you know what? I feel like I'm barking into the wind here because I know they're not listening.
Well, Alex, if they're not listening, at least they're watching. And remember, from the New World Order to you, we're watching you too.
Someone is watching. There are strange